Okay. Thank you. All right, welcome everyone to this webinar on this year's Kansas Book Festival. I'm very happy to have Tim Bascom, the executive director of the book festival, and also Dr. Beth Dobler, who is the coordinator of volunteers. That's right. For the book festival. This is the 13th, right?
Yes.
1-3, right? So I don't know how many years I have been there, but probably 5-6 times so far. It has a very interesting history and different venues, different formats. This year, it is in Washburn University campus, but I believe it's a little bit different venue. So Tim will present us what's unique for this year's and the kind of general programs and who's appearing, the authors and other programs. So Tim, take it away.
Okay. Thanks for inviting us. It's good to be with you all. And I'm going to defer to Beth occasionally here. She has more history with the festival than I do. I've been the director for 4 years, but Beth has been involved right from the ground floor, I think, when it first came to Topeka. The fact is, the festival did exist as, quote, the Kansas Book Festival for a few years in Wichita. And then it, I think due to financial reasons, went under, and it disappeared for, 3-4 years. Then First Lady Mary Brownback said, let's start a festival here in Topeka, and it began. And Beth was involved right from the start. Maybe you could say a word real quick, Beth, about what it was like at the beginning here in Topeka.
Sure. The festival, when it first started in Topeka, was at the state capitol, which was kind of a nice place because people got to go into the Capitol building, which is always accessible, but it's not so easy to make time to be there. So that was a nice part of the festival. It's really continued in a similar format since then, bringing in authors, having them speak to groups. We look a lot, and Tim will talk about choosing the authors, but we do look for authors that have a connection to Kansas. So that's really important to keep that Kansas tie going. But because it is a state festival, we try to branch out, and Tim, I think, will also talk about a little more about, we call it the Book Fest West, where we go out of Topeka into some other areas of Kansas. So far, it's been in the western part of Kansas. So still trying to get the word out about the festival to people. So even though it's been around for a while, it's not as widely known as we would like it to be.
Yeah, when I came, we were right in the thrall of COVID. And what happened to festivals across the nation was that a lot of them had to just shut their doors for at least a year, and some of them never came back. And the festival was kind of a little bit on the edge of what's going to happen next year. And we worked hard to make a shift at that point, collaborating with Washburn University, which turned out to be a terrific thing. It's a bit more accessible than having to go through security and that kind of thing at the state capitol. And it's been nice to have people at Washburn who are very clued in about literature and wanting to promote it. And our main host is the actual library at Washburn. So we're working with people who love books. And we'll have about 45 authors every year who come, and they speak in panels. And occasionally it's just an individual, especially if they're very high profile. Like our keynote speaker this time is Sarah Paretsky, who some of you may know is well known for about 30 different books in a series with a female crime detective, V.I. Warshawski. And she actually grew up in Lawrence. So there's that Kansas connection. So occasionally we'll have somebody like her speaking individually, maybe with a moderator. In this case, the commentator from Kansas Public Radio, Kay McIntyre, will be her moderator. But more likely, it would be a pair of authors, and they would be talking about a topic that they had in common. So, for instance, this year we've got the Poet Laureate of Nebraska, who's made occasional ventures into Kansas. So we let him in the door. And he's going to talk. He's a performance poet, so he'll be doing kind of fun stuff, off the cuff, more dramatically with poetry. And he'll be talking with a nonfiction writer from Lawrence who has a book about fears that he went through as a young person in the 80s. The reason we put them together is that the performance poet has a new book called Rock Stars that is looking at the 80s a lot. And so the 80s become their common theme, and they have a conversation, and they'll have a moderator with them who's helping to guide them through thinking about the 80s and how they influence society here in America. So that kind of odd combo seems like it'd be a fun one. We'll have instead with children's authors, two who have picture books that are for very young children. One has a book called Peg Gets Crackin', and it's about a chick breaking out of its eggshell. And then she's being paired with Gazelle Anatol, who teaches at KU, who has a new book called Small Girl Tony and the Quest for Gold. And it's a fictionalized picturing of the life of Toni Morrison, the famous author, as a child. And it's beautifully illustrated. So both of them are looking at first readers and emerging into the world, and that experience of emerging as young people. And they'll talk about that topically. We'll have about 45 exhibitors as well. They'll be outdoors instead of indoors. They'll be under tents. And that includes regional publishers. So we'll have Meadowlark from down there in Emporia. We'll have Flint Hills Publishing. This year we're excited because the woman who's coordinating things, who used to work at the state library, Cindy Root, has been able to get the University of Nebraska Press to come down, in part because we've included some Nebraskans. And we'll have individual authors who have their own books out on tables to sell. We'll also have some people who do art using books, like making floral arrangements with books, or making one of them does this really cool stuff where she takes, the old, in libraries, you guys used to have those inside the book, you open it up and you have that sheet that you tape in there and then you stamp it. What do you call that thing? You know what I mean? These days, it's not the same, right? It's all electronic. But she takes those and then paints on them in relationship to the book that it went with. So if it's Great Gatsby, then she'll do artwork that somehow plays off of Great Gatsby. And it's kind of fun to see what she can do. We always have live music as well. So people, when they're wandering around in the tents, can hear, in this year, Jed Zeppelin, not Led Zeppelin, Jed Zeppelin, which is bluegrass renditions of songs that you might recognize from rock music. Or Zydeco to Go, which is a great pair of guys who make very playful music from Louisiana, that kind of thing. There's a children's tent, so kids can do their own activities. We always try to have fun things for them to do that are hopefully book related. In this year, maybe bookmarks being made by the Mulvane Art Lab. And there's also a woman from the Lawrence Public Library coming over. And again, I hope you're hearing libraries are often involved in one way or another. But she'll help kids to take books, not new ones, not really expensive, important new ones, but old ones that never get used, and cut them up a bit to make art out of them. And we think that'll be fun for kids. So those are some of the things that just happen. I can give you a couple highlights of this year's program in case you want to be there. I hope you do. And I know some of you are offering to volunteer, and thank you very much if you are. I think there's, Beth was saying somewhere between 9 and 12 volunteers who are hoping to come. But in terms of the program, Daniel Wildcat will come, who's been teaching at Haskell Indian Nations University, and he has a new book called On Indigenuity, which I think is terrific, thinking about indigenous wisdom and how it can benefit us today. We'll have two authors who have a new book about Patrick Mahomes called Kingdom Quarterback. We always try to get something like that because men don't read. And so we got to get them in the door somehow. So we get a book that's about sports or something of this nature. We'll have Alex Grecian, who has a new book that's a speculative Western horror story. You got people in a stagecoach, but things are happening that couldn't have happened historically, such as a witch hunt in the middle of it all, which is big these days. Speculative fiction just keeps growing and growing. Trying to think what other ones leap out. I'm looking at the program a little bit here. The author David Von Drell, some of you may have read The Book of Charlie. It was a New York Times bestseller, and it's about a physician who lived to the age of 109. He lived in Kansas City, and David Von Drell moved into the block where he was, walked across and started talking to him, became close friends, eventually wrote a whole book based on this man's life that is like a walkthrough of a whole century of history, both on a Kansas City level, where you even get into things like, kind of the Kansas City Mafia, and also on a national level, thinking about the world wars that he actually saw and dealt with, and dealing with medical history and how much being a physician changed over one century. So I think that'll be a very interesting one. Beth, do you have one or two that you think of that you'd want to add in?
Well, I'm really excited to hear Angela Cervantes. She's a children's book author. She grew up in Topeka. She lives in Kansas City now. And she herself is Hispanic, and then she writes books with children characters that are Hispanic, and she's just fun to listen to, and really advocates for bringing her culture into children's literature.
This year, this new book of hers has a boy who tells scary stories to everybody, but he's kind of hiding his own secret fears. And he's afraid because his mother's been in prison and she's about to be released. And he's trying to work through that, which is a very unique situation. And what we do with moderators is we try to find somebody who will bring an interesting angle to the conversation. And I think this one could be really good. I don't know her, but we're having Cheryl Rios come, and she is actually a court judge. And so she's seen things from that side in terms of the damages within families, perhaps, in prison and how it affects things. we should point out that Beth actually helped this to happen, but we are now collaborating with Heather Caswell there at Emporia on the Bill Martin Jr. Picture Book Award, which is national in scope. This year, the winner is Christopher Denise. I don't know if I'm saying his name quite right. Have any of you read Night Owl? I haven't myself, but the illustrations are incredible. And he does both the art and the story, and it won the Caldecott Award as well. So we're talking a really powerful book, and he'll get honored at one of the sessions too. That's giving you kind of the rough sense of things that happen. I can talk structurally a bit about a festival. We're different than most because it's an independent entity. Usually these festivals will be underneath some state organization, typically like the humanities program for the state, sometimes the state library, and we aren't. That is sometimes difficult because, for one thing, I'm the only paid staff member who's full-time. We've got a couple temporary assistants who help out each year. But if you're under some umbrella like that, there's an organization already built to help with a lot of things. On the flip side, we have a lot of independence. So we're able to just kind of playfully find what we're going to do next. And that's been fun. We have 8 people on our board now, and the chair was Mary Brownback for a long time, but we've transitioned, and Kathleen O'Leary Morgan, who is the deputy director at the Lawrence Public Library, is now the chair of the board. Fundraising is always a trick with something like this. And this year, we're pleased that we reached our goal and went beyond it, having a direct mail fundraising campaign. And a lot of the money comes just from grants, and I do a lot of grant writing, but we aren't able to get really large ones. So it means multiple small ones. And that takes a lot of my time trying to get assistance from organizations like Arts Connect here in Topeka that supports the arts, or sometimes reaching out to companies as well, sponsorships, that kind of thing. What are some questions that you have as you're listening? I'm just kind of rolling along here.
So how do you select the authors to come?
Yeah. We now have a committee that meets numerous times, especially between January and May, where we're, first of all, making just a long list of authors who have new books. So we're always looking for somebody who has a book in the last year, ideally, 2 years sometimes, and rarely 3 years. And that list, when I first came, was scary because I didn't know who to look for, but I was very thankful that Tom Averill is on the board, and he's worked with authors for his whole life here in the area. He is a writer himself. And so he helped, the two of us would sit and draw this list. But what's been interesting is now it's 4 years in, and we have way too many authors. And people wouldn't expect it, especially with the limit of saying that it has to be Kansas connected. But I'm amazed by how many authors do have connections to Kansas and are actually outstanding authors. So like last year, Ling Ma came and read, and she had actually gone to high school in Topeka, but she just won the National Book Critics Circle Award, So we're getting some really remarkable authors coming even within those limits. And now it keeps growing in terms of who we have to reach towards. So then the question becomes, having seen all these books, the committee will look at them and start thinking in kind of pairings and say, now, what if we took this person and put this person together with him or her? And what would we get out of that? And trying to find creative ways to put them together. And that affects the decisions, because sometimes we'll let another author go simply because we can't see the kind of generative conversation that might come out of it. Humanities Kansas has become our biggest partner, contributing $20,000 a year over a 3-year period, which has been a huge help. And part of their mandate is, I think their slogan is, oh, what is the slogan?
Kathy may know. No.
Huh?
Kathy book.
Kathy, do you have it?
Kathy has been, the reviewers of what's the Kansas book, notable books.
I don't know their slogan. This is Kansas Humanities. Humanities Kansas.
Yeah. But it has to do with stories, because we are all stories ourselves, and stories matter. And so we've been in step with them, and they're concerned about ideas, and we are too. Books are where we explore ideas, even when they are in fiction or poetry. And so we've worked hard on trying to come up with creative ideas that apply to lots of people in our society. And this isn't a literary conference in that sense where you have it's not an academic conference. We really work hard on trying to reach everyone who might want to read, with the caveat that we want to have really strong literary authors in that mix. Yeah. And other things that I can say are that there are some outside projects. Beth already mentioned them. We felt that since a lot of people in other parts of the state couldn't travel all the way to Topeka for that one day, or didn't even know that we existed, we should take the festival on the road and go out to some other communities. So we experimented with that last year, went to Hayes and to Abilene, took a troupe of 10 authors, had them do presentations and sell books. And we decided we'll do it again this year. We're returning to Hayes, and we're going to go to Salina as well. And in both cases, this year, we are doing it with the public libraries in those two places. We'll take fewer authors, and we'll do it 2 weeks after the festival, because it almost killed me doing it the day after the festival last year. So we're spacing it out just a little bit and limiting how many authors we take. But we're kind of learning our way into this and wanting to do a bit more of reaching out to other communities. The other thing is, and Beth's been very involved with this, we give library grants every year. This is not easy because we don't have a deep pocket for it, so we have to raise the money each year for that. But we felt it's very important. We're trying to support particularly under-resourced libraries. Many of them are in more remote parts of the state, and sometimes they're in inner city settings. And we're helping both school libraries and public libraries with small grants, anywhere between $1,000 and maybe $2,500. So in fact, we'll have a reception on September 6th with 4 librarians coming in from around the state who are receiving grant money this year. One of them, for instance, is up in Burr Oak, which is in central Kansas near the Nebraska border. One's down in El Dorado. One is out in Hill City to the southwest. And one is right here in Topeka in more of an inner city school. So we have those two projects happening. And the other thing we do a lot of is trying to get authors into schools. So the author that Beth mentioned, Angela Cervantes, is going into 4 grade schools here in the Topeka area when she comes. And we've got a couple of other authors doing that kind of visit. Beth, is there anything you'd want to throw in that I'm not thinking of?
I guess I would just add that although the festival is held on one day, it is a year-long project, right, Tim?
Yeah.
You probably have a few little gaps in there, but really it takes all year and lots of people to put this together. And so we're especially grateful for the SLIM students who are coming to volunteer. That is a huge help to us. So thank you for that.
So speaking of volunteer activities, which areas, which tasks do you need most? Do you need the hands most? You know, sessions, or even the last year I heard that somebody kind of took the author back to the airport, you know, so little, you know, or big tasks, and they're kind of proud of that. You know? So
Yeah, we have shuttle drivers who help us get the authors to and from the airport in Kansas City, and then in Topeka from the hotel to the festival. And those are great opportunities for volunteers to get to have a personal conversation with the author. And then we provide a host for each session, and the host helps get the author to where they need to be, and another opportunity to kind of get to know an author on a different level. And then we also have an information booth, we have a hospitality room, and we use volunteers there. And then setting up and taking things down, we also use volunteers there. So there's lots of ways to participate in helping the event to go forward. And what's great for the SLIM volunteers is they get that opportunity to help and be a part of the event and be in that library setting. Because we are at the Washburn University Library. And then also they have a couple little breaks in there where they can go and hear an author speak also. So that's kind of a nice mix for them to be able to be a part of the festival, because as future librarians, it's very possible they'll be helping with some kind of an event in their own community. Maybe not on the scale of a statewide festival, but maybe so.
Yeah, I think that every library should come up with some programming that brings authors in. And I think a festival is just a larger expression of that. The reason I believe in what we're doing is that I'm an author myself. I have 5 books published, a couple more coming. But I know what it's like to try to get those out into the public eye and to have people interested in them. And it's very meaningful when it works out, but it often doesn't. And it's very hard to compete in our very market-driven world. So here's this festival that is one opportunity, at least, where people can find a readership and have people meet with them. And there's nothing more pleasant, really, for an author than that direct encounter. Sometimes people write books that get awards and are terrific, and they never even hear from anybody who read it. But when you go to a festival, you're going to get direct, immediate interaction with people who are readers. And I think the flip side is true too, that readers read because they want to connect. They want to connect with somebody who's thinking about things that matter to them, or entertaining them, but they want to connect with someone. And so a festival gives them that opportunity for a little bit. And we're glad to help make that happen.
So what could be done for the PR, kind of letting people know about the festival? been, for example, I was a little bit kind of shocked to see one of our students in my class, kind of service learning class for the volunteers, saying, I have been teaching 24 years in here, Kansas meaning, right? 24 years, I have never heard about the book festival. So there's some disconnection, I've known, many of us here, we have known the book festival for years, but more people probably have not heard anything. So through the school system or library system, so how can we help to spread words about book festival? It's been 13 times, so
It's an uphill battle every year. I'm conscious of those stories. They come up over and over. Somebody went to Barnes and Noble here in Topeka and talked with the person in charge there who said, book festival? I didn't know there was a book festival. So we hear those stories, and I'm conscious that the word isn't out there as much as we wish. And we're doing all kinds of different things to try to get out there more. So like I just finished a press release today that's targeting the Topeka Capital Journal because of the local interest from authors here. We do the same with Lawrence, Kansas City, Wichita, looking particularly at authors from those areas. We've got radio ads on Cumulus Radio. Kansas Public Radio last year for the first time said, we'll sponsor a session, and the way we'll do it is we will give you 50 free radio spots. And that was particularly helpful because KPR is really our group, the kind of people who would want to come to a book festival. Invista gave us marketing money and put us up on a billboard in Topeka. This year, the Greater Topeka Partnership is giving us a billboard out on the highway, I-70, between Lawrence and Topeka that will feature the festival. So we're trying to do things like this. And then the library network's really important. So the state library has tried to make announcements about things that will at least get it out there to librarians. But yeah, with posters are going up, we have cards that we leave at bookstores so that people can walk away with them. But I will admit that the festival has tended to have a circle that includes Topeka, Lawrence, Manhattan, Emporia, and a little bit Kansas City. But that circle needs to get bigger. And we're trying to figure out how does that happen. We've had advertising due to Kansas Book Fest West in newspapers and radio in Hayes. There's a Greater Plains public radio station as well that's done some things. But I see it as a slow process each year, getting a bit further along. Yeah.
Okay, any questions from students, our advisors? Kathy, do you have a booth for the Red Rock this year? No?
No, we don't have one this year.
A booth for what?
Well, last year, Red Rocks, the William Allen White House, we had.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Beverly Buller set that up, but.
Yeah, we like having that kind of thing.
Yeah, it was fun. But we're so poor. I mean, we don't have any extra money for things, we just, yeah, it was fun last year. But how many booths do you have? How many exhibitors do you have? Do you have a good number?
It has really grown. This year, we've had a tremendous number of people asking. They're still asking to get in, and we're just booked up. We added another tent, and then we said we can't do more. So we're going to have, I would think, at least 45 exhibitors. Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. I think Jimmy has something.
Yeah, I was going to ask, what's the space for
What is the space that we're in?
Your
My-
microphone
Kinda
is kind of
garbled.
broken.
I'm not hearing you fully.
our
Can you type
libraries
in
have
the chat?
booths? Our libraries. No. Like, where are there libraries or librarians who are vendors or presenting?
Okay,
Librarian.
in the chat, are there libraries? What did he say?
Oh, are they vendors or presenters? Libraries?
Are libraries involved with the festival? Are they vendors or presenters?
Okay. Yeah. Well, like last year, we had the Johnson County Public Library come and have a booth. The state library had a booth. There was another library booth as well. This year, Lawrence will be there doing the artwork with children from their public library. So yeah, libraries do get involved that way. The Topeka Public Library has been a major supporter for the festival. One of the MCs comes from there for our stage, and he brings in youth performers as well on the stage. We've had librarians, numerous ones that have acted as moderators because of their background. This year, I'm thinking of a young woman at Lawrence, Margot, who knows a lot about young adult novels and will be a moderator. So there's a lot of involvement that way. I misheard what you were saying, but I'm going to go ahead and comment because I heard the word space, and I haven't said yet that we've always been in the library, but the unique situation this year is that the Washburn Library is moving. And I don't know if any of you have been involved in a library moving, but it looks like it's not easy. And they're moving into the old law school, and that's at the corner of the campus. And the building still isn't fully renovated. So when I go in, I see big stacks of furniture in certain spaces and rooms that haven't had carpet put down, et cetera. It makes me nervous, obviously, because we need to be in there. But I feel concerned for them because, they've started the school year and they're trying to still make these big changes. It also means that our vendors now have to move out of a green space on a lawn onto a parking lot. And there are lots of very small details that have to be dealt with, none of which I realized when I took this position. But now I'm talking to people about how you secure tents on concrete, the things like that. And the tents suddenly cost a lot more because of where they're being put. Yeah.
So the festival is in the new library, the old law building.
Yeah. And it should work pretty well, especially if they can get it all cleaned up and everything. There's 3 very large rooms on the lower level that will allow for more people. The good problem we were having last year is that we had too many attendees, and so they were going into rooms and having to sit on the floor, and it was getting hot. They had to have a fan, and it was getting tricky. So now we're getting into some larger rooms that I think should work better.
Yeah, and the tradition times is always kind of crowded in a narrow corridor.
Yes, this part we're experimenting. We decided, look, we're going into a new space. Let's just try all kinds of things. So we are staggering the schedule this year. Instead of having 1 hour, then the next hour, then the next hour, we're going to start a session, and before it's done, start another one. And it will mean some people will get up and walk out of the room. It will get tricky. But we also think it will allow longer periods in between when people can go and browse, when they can get a book signed and pay for it and not feel like they have to race immediately to another session. So we're experimenting with that. How
Okay,
many of
so
you have
Slim,
helped? Can
sorry,
I ask how many of you have helped plan a author event before? I'm just curious. Any hands out there? No, not yet. Ah, Nicole, you have.
Nicole.
What was yours? What were you doing?
Oh, just very small author events, just having a author visit, come in and speak and sign some books. So very, very small compared to what you're doing.
What was it? A local author from the area?
Yeah, local Iowa authors. Yep.
Uh-huh. Well, this is good, but you know that even when it's small and local, it takes a lot of work to get it organized and to promote it so that people know about
Right.
it. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, Slim will have a booth at the festival. So, you know, I'm happy to participate.
Yeah, we're glad to have you there.
And then from last year, I don't know how the idea came to me, but what about put together as a class, a service learning class, and then let the students have experience, get a real experience at the book festival, little thing here and there or big thing, technical, the problems always happening, so students are in charge of the opening the session and closing the session, and then, a lot of things. So I'm very proud that we can help with our students.
We're thankful for that collaboration. Absolutely.
Yeah. And, the Mary Brownback, First Lady, came to my office literally to get ask for help for the book festival way back several years ago, and I made my commitment. I will do my best, but not much, financially. This is our kind of small school, at a university, but whatever I can do with myself or with my students, I will do my best.
Well, we're very thankful for that. And I am serious when I say that libraries have been kind of a backbone for the festival. I wasn't even saying that when we go and try to arrange for authors to go into schools, it's almost always the media specialist or librarian that we're working with to make that happen. And the person who's over all of the libraries in the 501 school district here in Topeka is working with us now on trying to get information out in the area. Because it happens here, it's easiest to have authors visit schools nearby. But we have had them even go to Junction City, to Manhattan, and some other places as well. For that matter, if a school in Emporia wanted to have an author come, let's make it happen, but we've got to figure out how to connect. That's the trick.
Well, I mean, honestly, we still have kind of struggle to connect with the local schools for the William Allen White Children's Book Awards. That's local. Well, it's kind of big, book award, but local schools have not participated as actively as we wished.
Yeah.
So there's a disconnection. So how can we mobilize 7 elementary schools in town to participate the local, book event? So it's quite interesting.
To me,
as you said, it's all about connection.
To me, it seems like a no-brainer. I'm like, what an opportunity for kids to see a really remarkable author at that time, if it can be worked out. But it's never easy.
So how successful was your event in Hayes last year?
It's a mixed bag. The authors and we had a great time. A lot of it was because we were like a little community and having fun talking about writing and literature. But when we got out there, they hadn't done as much promotion as we might have wished. And so even though they put together a really good program at Fort Hays State University with a band of teenagers who were playing music and a bookstore that came over from Russell to sell the books, and they had tables out, they'd done all that, but they just hadn't got the community aware of it enough. So there were very few who came. I had insisted if I bring these authors, many of whom are writing for children or youth, I'd like them to go into schools, which was tricky to arrange, but they had worked on that. And we ended up having our authors meet with, we added it up, and it was 750 kids altogether. That part was a real success, and they were very thankful to go into the schools. But then they said, but we didn't sell any books. And I was like, no, I had just hadn't thought through it, and they had not, because you have to do like pre-ordering of books, and you have to get the parents aware if there's going to be books sold to kids. So, we're still trying to learn these things as we go. And I worry a little bit again about how it will go this year. But we're going to try it again, see if we can improve on it.
All right, any other comments, questions? All right, thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, good to be with you.
Okay, I will see you at the festival.
Hope to see a number of you. Bring your friends
thank
too.
you.
And we have a Facebook account and an Instagram account and a website. So if you go to Facebook or Instagram, you can share something and say, hey, we have little, posts about the different sessions. Yeah.
Okay. All right, thank you again.
Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Yeah, good to meet you.